Today we're going to talk about congruency and what that means. And just in case you forget, congruent means exactly the same. So if the shapes that we look at are the exact same size, they're the exact same shape, all their angles are the same, then we call them congruent. So first I want to start out by realizing that if two polygons, so for example two triangles, if they're congruent, then their corresponding parts are all congruent as well. And what that means is if you were to take this triangle and just kind of flip it over so it laid exactly on top of this triangle, the letters that would stack are what we call corresponding. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take two congruent triangles and we're going to match all the corresponding pieces. So there would be three pairs of angles. You have angle A, that's going to overlap with angle E. Angle B will overlap with angle F, and angle C will correspond to angle D. So we'll refer to those as corresponding. And then you have three sides as well. So you'll have side AB, that will correspond to side EF. You'll have side BC, and that corresponds to side DF. And we have side AC, and that will correspond to side ED. So, for example, a triangle has three sides, so it has three sets of angles, three sets of sides when we're comparing. If you did a quadrilateral, you'd have 4 and 4, a pentagon, 5 and 5, and so on. So the next thing we're going to look at is what is called a congruency statement. So a congruency statement is basically a bunch of letters with a congruent symbol and then another bunch of letters. So basically saying that two shapes are congruent to each other. The name of the first shape is A, B, C, D, E, and the name of the second shape is F, G, H, I, J. So what we want to do is when we're matching up sides and angles, it can get messy if you try to use the picture. I can tell you right now that this picture is not drawn to scale and it's done that way on purpose. So if you have a choice between a picture and a statement, you always want to go with the statement. The statement doesn't lie and it's not going to be as easy to mess up as looking at a picture. So the sides in my first shape would be, and you don't even need the shape, you can just look here. They're going to be letters that are side by side, like AB and BC and CD. And we keep going, and we have DE. And then the last side, since there's 5 letters, there has to be 5 sides, will always be the first and the last letter. So side AE. We're going to match those up with the sides from the other pentagon. So we're going to go ahead and say these are all congruent. So if they use a congruency symbol, you get to use a congruency symbol. So that's kind of neat. And all you have to do is realize, okay, if A and B are first and second, then they have to be matched up with F and G since they're first and second as well. So the order of the letters is really important. It absolutely matters. B and C come second and third, so that matches up with G and H because they're second and third. And we just kind of keep going with the pattern. C and D would match up with HI, and DE matches with IJ. And then first and last letter, F and J. So there's all 5 sides that are congruent and corresponding. And now we'll do the angles. So the first angle would be A, and that matches the other first angle, which is F. And we're just going to keep going down the list. We have B and G, C and H. Angle D is congruent to angle I. Angle E is congruent to angle J. Right, so there are all your corresponding parts. There's 5 corresponding sides and 5 corresponding angles, total of 10 parts. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to come up with the congruency statements based on the picture. So these are triangles, and triangles are more popular than any other pentagon that we, or excuse me, any other polygon that we do this year. And because they're so common, we will use a symbol for them, and the symbol is a little triangle. I think they just decided that because it makes it quicker to read, it makes it quicker for us to grasp the concept that, hey, this is a triangle that we're naming. So what you can do is name this triangle any order you want. You might want to do ABC. Some kids might do CAB. And some kids might do ACB. Any of them is fine. It doesn't matter which one you do. What does matter is the way you order the second step. So the second figure is, of course, also a triangle. But this time you have to make sure your letters match. So A is the first letter, and it has 2 markings. So then you have to look at this triangle and realize, okay, A corresponds to E because E also has 2 markings. So E has to come first. And then B has a right angle, and so does G. So G has to match up with B in the order. And then C obviously has to be paired up with R. So no matter how you write your statements, no matter what, A and E should correspond B and G and C and R. So if we were to switch the order to CAB, so we have to go last, first, second, well then you're going to do it here as well. Last, first, second, R, E, G. If I did ACB, second, first, last, then I still have to do second, first, last. It has to be ERG then. So any of these are acceptable, and if I look at everyone's pairing, no matter what, we all should have A matches with E, B matches with G, and C matches with R. So as long as that's happening, your order is fine. So we're going to take some congruency statements from triangles, and we're going to make some conclusions ourselves. So WR would have to be congruent to side PL, first and last letter. PS has to match up with QM, so we'll put segment QM. So it says RHK goes with WVO. So if we switch the order to KRH, we'd be switching the order to last, first, middle. So last, first, middle, OWV. And you want your triangle symbol. T clearly matches up with angle N. XC matches up with WP or PW, whichever one. It's fine the way you order it. And then M has to correspond with D. So what I want you to do is pause the video, and you're going to take your own congruency statement right here, and I want you to make a list of all the congruent corresponding angles. So all the angles, all the sides, etc. Hopefully you came up with angles T and A, X and K, and H and E, and then all your corresponding sides. So what we're going to do lastly is we're going to take 2 congruent triangles and we're going to write congruency statements for each of them. So congruency statement will start out with a triangle symbol, and you order the letters. So let's do RST. That is congruent to triangle, and we'll have to match our letters. So R has to go with F. So again, we're going by the markings, not by the picture. The picture is misleading. S has 2 of these, and so does E. So the last letter must be D. The next one, we'll do triangle MLK. Is congruent to. So M has no markings, and neither does H. So go with H. L has a box, and so does G. And then K has to go last. And then the last triangle, some kids see it really quickly and others don't, and that's okay. But you have to realize there's 2 triangles. There's this triangle, which is ABC, and then there's this triangle, which is BDC. So just make sure we match these up really carefully here. So definitely A and D go together. We'll just have ABC as our order for the first triangle. So A goes with D. And then you can see that B has like a arc marking with a tick mark, and so does C and the other triangle. So this triangle C matches up with this triangle's B. So C has to be next, and then B would have to be last. So just because two triangles have the same letters doesn't mean that those letters are paired together. You can see that they don't match each other. So in this triangle, C matches with this triangle's B. So they're in different locations based on the picture.